Hello everybody and welcome to the Zentangle Project Pack number 18. My name is Julie Willand and I am so excited to be here tangling with you all today. We are going to be using the materials found in our Project Pack number 18 envelopes. Project Packs are available at zentangle.com and from some of our certified Zentangle teachers. As always, we recommend watching the Project Pack number 18 introduction video before starting on the lessons, as we are working with some brand new materials, and we share some useful information about these materials and tips on how to use them. We are thrilled to be using this project pack to introduce a new surface to tangle on. We are calling the newest member of the Zentangle family Translucency, and these tiles are so much fun to work with. Really outside of the box of what we've done before, and we're just so excited to finally share these all with you. And all of the lessons in this series play with how tangles can play with light and shadow, and how this particular surface allows both the tangles and the light to pass through in fun and unexpected ways. So let's begin. Today I am working with one of our translucency tiles. And then I have the Micron 10 and Micron 01 that were in the project pack. I've got one of our pastel pencils here, the white charcoal pencil, graphite pencil, and tortillons to go with each of those. And then these awesome tiles. Let's go. We are going to start right with our Micron 10, this bold micron. So no dot or string or border today. We're just going to jump right in. I'm going to begin by drawing an orb that fills a good portion of my tile. You can see my orb is a little wonky. It's definitely not a perfect circle, and that's good. We don't want it to be perfect. And then I'm going to draw a second orb inside here. Off-centered a little bit, but again, not perfectly circular, a little bit wonky. Has lots of character to it. And then we're going to be drawing inspiration from the Tangle Aquafleur today to create these bands that go across our orb. So if you want to watch me, I'm going to begin on the outside of my smaller orb, and I'm going to draw a line that's not perfectly straight. It's going to have a slight curve to it and maybe be a little bit wonky, but I'm going to go to the outside of my larger orb, and you notice just ever so slightly I have gone over that outside line a bit. And so watch again as I do another line to create my band. You see I go over ever so slightly, and then I'm going to connect these lines at the top here. And down at the bottom, I'm again going to add just a little bit of a curve. And then I'm going to fill this band in with ink. And by wrapping it around on the top and bottom there, it looks like this band goes around my orb. And then I'm going to do this same thing all the way around my orb, just adding these bands. Actually, I want this one to be a little bit thicker, so I'm going to go back and we're filling it in, so you won't even notice what I did there. Get to connect these at top as it wraps around. These bold Micron 10s work great on these tiles, but are also great for this filling in. And just take your time and just enjoy the process. I'm going to come here and add my little curve to wrap it around. I'm leaving a pretty decent amount of space between my bands because we're going to be tangling there. But your bands don't all have to be the same size. Some are going to be bigger than others, some may be smaller, and that's okay. But we're going to go all the way around our orb. And now I have all of my bands all around my orb completed, and it looks like a yummy donut or perhaps a life preserver at the beach. I'm going to be picking up my Micron 01 pen. And we're going to be working with the Tangle Sand Swirl, which is always one of my favorites. And I'm going to pick any space in my orb. It does not matter. And I'm going to begin by drawing a line that curves around and ends with a loop, just like that. And then I'm going to aura that line. And then I'm going to aura it again. I'm going to add another aura. I'm just going to pretend as if I'm drawing behind this band and come out on the other side. So this is the basic shape of Sand Swirl. And it's not quite going to be the traditional Sand Swirl, but pretty close. But we're just going to put them in randomly to fill each of these spaces. Swirls can go in any direction. In fact, you want them going in all different directions. And some of your swirls are going to have more auras than other. Like, I'm going to go ahead and just fill this space. And then I'm going to go back to each of my swirls and I'm going to add a little bit of weight along the lines that meet this initial line that curve around. Just a little bit of weight to the end. Adding weight to my tangles and to my lines is one of my favorite ways to just add something a little bit more to my tile. And then after I've added that weight, I'm going to go back and I'm going to redefine just that first line that I put down. And I'm going to do that to all of my sand swirls. And then I'm just going to repeat this all the way around my orb here, filling in each of these spaces with sand swirls going in all different directions. Remember to breathe. To turn your tile. And so now I'm working in my last space, adding my sand swirl. each one a little different than the rest. Filling each space a little different than the rest. Adding my last bit of weight here. And there we have our orb with our sand swirl. This is either a really fancy donut, or I think with the name sand swirl, and this kind of looks like a life preserver, I'm going to think of a day at the beach as we go forward here. So after you've filled your spaces with your sand swirl and you've added your weight to all the little lines here, you're going to pick up your graphite pencil and you're just going to go in and add a little bit of graphite. And my pencil is on its side here, but I'm just going to add a little bit of graphite all along that first line that I put down in each swirl. And this is just really emphasizing the illusion of those lines that are swirling back underneath the original line. Oh, here I forgot to put the weight on my lines. And then I'm going to pick up my tortillon and I'm just going to smooth out that graphite just a bit. I don't want to fill too much of my space with the graphite because we're going to be using that Pastel Chalk pencil, but I just really wanted to highlight the effect that sand swirl has. Just need a little bit. You can already see all of that dimension that those swirls have. I'm then going to pick up my Pastel Chalk pencil. I'm using the ultramarine, again going with this very ocean vibe that I did not plan out, but I kind of like it. And I'm going to add some Pastel Chalk all along the outside of or just inside that outside boundary of my orb here. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the inside here. Like my graphite, I'm kind of working with the pencil on its side. And once I have it all around the edges of my orb, I'm going to pick up my tortillon for that pastel pencil. And I'm just going to go in and go over that pastel pencil. So I'm using the Pastel Chalk to kind of to shade my orb here. And you can use whichever chalk pencil you want. You can use the graphite if you want. I just like a little bit of color, especially on these translucency tiles. So if you like hold it up to the light, the color just gives it a little pop. And then we're going to take my General's white chalk pencil And I'm going to go in the middle of these spaces here over my sand swirl. Again, I'm holding my pencil at an angle, and I'm adding a highlight here. And then I'll pick up my tortillon for my white charcoal, and I'm just ever so gently going to go back and soften this out and smooth this out. I'm trying not to touch that pastel pencil too much because it's going to get all over my tortillon, but it's bound to happen. Your tortillons are going to get all muddied up. But look at just all of that dimension. And now I'm going to pick up my white charcoal again, and I'm going to go to each of these bands. And at the top here, I'm going to put some white chalk all across the top of the band. To give these bands a little bit of highlight as they wrap over our orb. And then I'm picking up my tortillon again, and I'm going to soften it. I'm actually going to soften it. I'm also going to pull a little bit of it down. Not all the way, but just a bit. And I'm going to do that on each one. And then our last final step here is going to pick up that chalk pencil again. I'm using the same one that I used to shade my orb here. And I'm going to go to where each one of these bands wraps around our orb. And I'm going to draw little lines radiating from each side of that band. And then I'm going to add a little pastel pencil there. I'm going to pick up my tortillon, and I'm going to smooth it out, and I'm also going to do the same thing that I did with the white charcoal and just pull it down, creating this like gradient ombre effect with the pencil. So kind of like the shadow, this light being cast off of this orb. And I'm going to do the same thing on each one. So this tile is actually very much inspired by a tile that Molly did years ago, back in February of 2019. I know that thanks to the Zentangle Mosaic app. A tile that has always been one of my favorites. It's a simple tile, but the shading is just incredible, as it always is with Molly. And it's always been one of my favorite tiles, and I've recreated it before on a Renaissance tile, just for my own practice. But as I was experimenting with these translucency tiles, it kept popping back in my brain. So I did a tile, and then I showed it to Molly. And I said, I know this is very much inspired by your tile, but I think it's a lot of fun on these translucency tiles. And so here we are. But what's really, really cool is when I went back to Molly's profile to find that tile again, I hadn't looked at it in a long time. Again, it was February 2019. And I love the caption of the tile because it's almost as if she knew that I was going to be using it on these translucency tiles one day, even though these tiles weren't even something we were talking about then. But it was really, really, I thought it just really fit. So the caption, the description for that tile in February 2019 was, "What if the sun and the moon were one? And what if it cast shadows and light at the same time?" And I just thought it was so fitting, considering the theme of this project pack are lights and shadows and everything all at the same time. And so I knew that I had to recreate this tile with you all. Look at that. Isn't it so much fun? I just love it. So as our final step, we're going to be picking up our Micron 01 or the 10 or whichever pen you want. I'm going to be adding our chop. I'm going to stick mine down here in the little Zentangle logo square. And then just pick this up, hold it out in front of you, look at it up against the light. These tiles are so much fun. There's so much to explore. And I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson of casting shadows and light at the same time. So thank you everybody for tangling along, and I can't wait to see what you guys all create.